So it's a great pleasure to have Amlendu Krishna today. And Amlendu, in recent years, meaning it is my own personal interest that he has been working on Euler class groups of affine algebras, and I at least keep waiting for his next preprints. So today he will talk about Chow groups and Euler class groups of affine varieties. So since it is already 5:35, I think I'll ask Amlendu to proceed.
Yeah, so first of all, thanks, Murnar, for this introduction. And I should correct him that it's not, I mean, I don't work in this subject so much, and I don't have that many papers. It's just that I keep learning from people and try to do something by myself. So nonetheless, I would like to thank this IIT Bombay Commutative Algebra Seminars organizers for inviting me to give this talk. And at the outset, I would like to apologize that although it's a commutative algebra seminar, it's so the results which I am going to present. To state all the results today I am going to present, you don't need to talk about algebraic geometry at all, but nonetheless, the statements are all commutative algebra statements, but the proofs are basically geometric. So it's like that. It's like usually sometimes you mostly use commutative algebra to prove algebraic geometric result, but today, all the results will be for commutative algebra, but my proofs are all mostly geometric. So that's interesting in its own right. And I hope by the end of the talk, people in commutative algebra also will have something to see in this, and maybe they may have some other question by themselves for whatever they are doing. Okay, so let's begin. So today I will present some results.
Amalendu,
yes.
Before you start, it'll be nice if you can switch on your video unless it causes trouble for you.
No, I can. So, but it's just that I don't know. Let me see, because I don't want. I am not a person who is big expert in these things. So I just do bare minimums. I have to see where to do that.
At the bottom, there is a video sign. If you can, just check whether it is on or not.
Let me see. So
the microphone, there is a video. Next one.
Yeah, it just is hidden by this my screen. So let me see. So how do I? Okay, so now. Huh?
Okay, doesn't matter.
Click on the camera at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, but I have to.
No,
it's not allowing me to do that.
Maybe you proceed. At the end of the talk, we can.
Yeah, it's okay. Let's see.
So can you see it? Can you see me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, but now it has become blank. The screen. I don't know what.
Not mine. Mine is still on.
Yes, it's still on.
I think both the things are not possible in Google Meet. That is the problem. Yeah, the speaker will not see himself, but we can see him.
But it has become dark.
No, you please go back to your slides.
Yeah.
And you can start.
But my screen is dark now.
No, we can see your screen.
But I cannot see.
Maybe you switch off the video again.
The video is off. So why does it become black? What is this?
No, so you on your video, right?
No, it's off.
Click on that video. Now it's okay.
No, but I cannot see it.
No, you just start presenting. Now it's fine. Now ask everything is okay.
Now it's fine?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry because I told you, like, I am very scared of doing all these things. Okay, so let's just start. Okay, so yeah, so what are the main problem? The two theorems I am going to state. So in this talk, I shall present, as I said, basically some two results on the Chow group of zero cycles on affine varieties over algebraically closed field and give several consequences. Okay, so we'll begin with some motivation. So the starting point is the famous torsion theorem of Reutemann. So so basically the description of torsion subgroup of any invariant of algebraic variety is an important problem in algebraic geometry. So let's fix a base field K which is algebraically closed, and the invariant we want to study is the Chow group of zero cycles of variety X over K. And let's write CS0X sub 0 to be the kernel of the degree map if X is a smooth, connected, and projective over K. Okay, so now if X is a smooth and projective over K, it has the associated Albanese variety which is written AlbX. I hope people know it. I won't repeat what is the definition. So, and this coincides with the Jacobian variety if X is a curve. And any choice of a base point, it gives you a Albanese morphism from X to its Albanese variety called the Albanese morphism, such that it takes that point to the zero, the identity of the Albanese variety. So the Albanese map allows one to define this group homomorphism from Chow group of zero cycles to the K points of the Albanese variety, which just takes the sum of the cycles to the sum of their images. And it does not, since you are looking at degree 0 cycles, this map does not depend on the choice of the base point. Notice that K is algebraically closed, so you have enough base points. Okay, a remarkable theorem of Reutemann says that alpha X induces an isomorphism between prime to P torsion subgroup if characteristic K is P, which is, let's say, is exponential characteristic. Later, Milne showed that alpha X is actually an isomorphism between the full torsion subgroups. Namely, this Albanese isomorphism induces the isomorphism between the torsion of the Chow group of zero cycles and the K points, torsion in the K points of Albanese variety. And note that one knows a clear description of the torsion subgroup of an abelian varieties. The Reutemann torsion theorem allows us to get a complete description of the torsion subgroup of Chow group of zero cycles. Now, the above result motivated the following, which I call the affine Reutemann torsion theorem. So it says the following: let X be a smooth affine variety over K of dimension at least 2. The question is the Chow group of zero cycle torsion free? So here is the result of Murthy, which says that the affine Reutemann torsion problem has a positive solution. So let me just try to tell you that how Murthy's theorem follows from the Reutemann torsion theorem I just discussed for a smooth projective variety in dimension 2. So basically, let X be a smooth affine surface, and you take a projective compactification of X, which you can do because we are in surface case, such that the difference, the complement is a simple normal crossing divisor. And then you have a theorem of Goodman, which is an old theorem, which says that in that case, Y supports an ample divisor. And in particular, it's connected. Now you have a localization sequence, which gives you this exact sequence. Now take the F to be the image of this push forward from the ample divisor to X bar. And then one knows that F is a divisible group. You can check it by going to curves. And you get a sort of F. Since Y supports an ample divisor, it's well known that the image of Y under the Albanese about hyperplane section theorem for Albanese variety. It follows that the map, the direct sum of Albanese of the irreducible components of Y to Albanese is surjective. In particular, the composite map on the torsion is surjective. This comes from the fact that in general, if we have the surjective map of commutative algebraic groups, then it is surjective on the torsion also. So using the Reutemann torsion theorem for yi and x bar, it follows that the composite map is surjective, but this implies that the torsion in the affine variety must be 0. So the consequence is that for surface, the affine Reutemann torsion theorem is a direct application of the projective Reutemann torsion theorem. But however, the above proof backs down in higher dimension because we cannot ensure a smooth compactification of X. And even if you do, the Goodman's theorem is not available in higher dimensions. So Murthy adopts a different strategy, which nonetheless uses a smoothness assumption quite strongly. Okay, so now we want to study Reutemann torsion problem for singular affine varieties. So let X now be a singular affine reduced scheme of dimension at least 2 over K. And so you have this something called the correct Chow group of zero cycle, which is defined by Levin and Weivels, which is like you check basically only the regular close points and you go modulo some rational equivalence where you choose curves which have certain property along the singular locus of X. Namely, along the singular locus of X, this curve should be a local intersection. And you choose a function which is invertible in the neighborhood of the singular points intersection C. And rest is just you do in the smooth case. So this way you define, this is called, which I write as the Levin-Weibull Chow group of zero cycle. Now the question is the Levin-Weibull Chow group of X torsion 3? And we will see why I am asking this question. So the first main result today I wanted to state is the following. Theorem A is the affine Reutemann torsion problem has a positive solution for any affine scheme of over K of dimension at least 2. Remember that this torsion theorem completely fails in dimension 1, even for a smooth case. So we shall give a sketch of the proof of, so in particular, affine Reutemann torsion has a positive solution for all varieties, not only a smooth. So we shall give a sketch of the proof of this result towards the end of the talk. Only thing I want to emphasize now is that this result cannot be deduced from the smooth case directly. Moreover, unlike the smooth case, we cannot use the projective Reutemann torsion theorem in dimension 2 because no such theorem exists actually for singular projective variety in positive characteristic. In fact, dimension 2 case is the most subtle part of the proof of the above result. Okay, so now let's look at the kernel of the cycle class map. Now let X be an affine scheme as above, then you have a cycle class map from the Chow group to authentic group of vector bundles, such that the cycle class of X is just the class of the structured sieve. And it makes sense because you only choose a regular point. Note that this class is in K naught X because X is a regular, X lies in a regular locus. Hence, OKX is the coherent OX module of finite 2 dimensions. So let's denote F naught K naught X to be the image of this cycle class map. One can show that F naught K naught X is the bottom piece of the gamma filtration on K naught of X. Now, the second main result is the following. It says the kernel of cycle class map is annihilated by D minus 1 factorial. Well, notice that this result is nothing new if X is smooth because it's a classical theorem of Grothendieck. It's already known to Grothendieck that kernel of the cycle class map is killed by D minus 1 factorial. But this was not known for singular variety. Okay, Levin had a proof of this, but his paper is completely unpublished. I don't know what he does, how he proves it. But nonetheless, we can prove it directly. Okay, so what are the consequences of these two results? So now is the first application. So the first application of theorems A and B is the solution to the following conjecture of Murthy. So what is the conjecture of Murthy? The Murthy's conjecture says that the F naught K naught X, which I just defined, is torsion free. So here is the first application of theorem A and B, and it says that the Murthy conjecture has a affirmative solution actually. Okay, so Murthy conjecture is correct. So how do you prove it? So it follows from theorems A and B that the map from the Levin-Weibel-Chow group to F0 K0 is an isomorphism, right? But the theorem A says that the former is torsion free. So that's just F0 K0 X has to be torsion free. So Murthy conjecture directly follows by combining theorems A and B. And I just wanted to recall for most of you that in his very famous paper in Annals of Math, Murthy proved like lots of fantastic results, and this is where he conjectured this, and most of his results on singular variety in that paper were based on the fact that this conjecture has an affirmative solution. Okay, so let's move on. Now, what is application 2? So this is about splitting vector bundles. So the second application is about the splitting of vector bundle over a affine scheme. So let X in general be a Noetherian affine scheme of full dimension D. Then a classical result of Sayre says that every vector bundle of rank more than D has a nowhere vanishing section. Equivalently, it splits off a trivial line bundle. However, the problem of finding a nowhere vanishing section becomes highly non-trivial for a vector bundle whose rank is bounded by D. We shall study this problem for vector bundles of rank D. We shall assume as before that X is a reduced affine scheme of dimension D over an algebraically closed field K. Mumford then showed that there exist vector bundles over X of rank D which do not admit any nowhere vanishing section even if X is small. So you need some conditions for this. So the question then arises as to what are the necessary and sufficient conditions for a vector bundle to admit a nowhere vanishing section. And Murthy proved the following remarkable theorem. Recall that if a vector bundle of rank D on a smooth affine variety X, if D is a vector bundle, then it has a Stopchern class CDB in the Chow group of zero cycle. And the Murthy's theorem is the following. It says that assume X is smooth, then V admits a nowhere vanishing section if and only if its Stopchern class is 0. Well, only if is completely trivial, but the main point is that this is also a sufficient condition. Okay, it was shown by Levin that for any reduced affine scheme X of dimension D over K and any vector bundle V on X, there is a canonical Stopchern class of the same rank, a CDB in the Levin-Weibel-Chow group. So the second application of theorems A and B is the following. Let X be a reduced affine scheme of dimension D, no smoothness condition over an algebraically closed field, and let V be a vector bundle of rank D on X. Then V admits a nowhere vanishing section if and only if Stopchern class is 0. So basically, Murthy results also holds for any affine scheme over algebraically closed field. So that's another application. And the proof basically goes via a trick of Murthy actually, and it works in the singular variety also. As soon as you assume theorem A and B basically. So once you know theorem A and B, then it basically just follows by composing the cycle class map with the Chern class map, and the fact that and then knowing that the composition is multiplication by D minus 1 factorial, and then you will see that the theorem follows. So I will not get into the detail of that. So here is the third application. So this is about Euler class group and Chow groups. So when X is an affine scheme of dimension at least 2, D or at least 2 over a non-algebraically closed field, then it is known that the vanishing of the CDB is not a sufficient, though clearly necessary, condition for a vector bundle of rank D to admit a nowhere vanishing section. So this phenomenon already occurs in dimension 2, and the following example is perhaps the most famous example of this. Namely, you just take the polynomial ring over real numbers in 3 variables and go modulo this sum of a square is equal to 1, namely whose real point is just the real 2 sphere. And here is the projective modules, which is stably free, and you can see that so its Stopchern class vanishes, but because it's the real points is S2 whose tangent bundle has nowhere vanishing section, it follows that even this projective model cannot have a it doesn't admit a nowhere vanishing section. Although I don't know a algebraic proof of this fact, but it follows from a topological fact, and this example is kind of quoted everywhere in the study of projective models in commutative algebra. So here is the Norris proposal then. So this Norris proposal says, so that example says that we need a modified version of Chow groups and the Chern class. So Norris proposed for a smooth affine schemes, an invariant, which is called the Euler class group, is so that every vector bundle V of top rank with trivial determinant admits an Euler class EP in the Euler class group, and asked if its vanishing implies that V admits a nowhere vanishing section. So with the same purpose in mind, Barge and Morel defined the notion of Chow-Witt groups of a smooth varieties, which are not necessarily affine and not necessarily in top degree. Actually, it's very general definition. All the definition of Euler class group for any Noetherian ring of dimension at least 2, and this definition is due to Bhatt-Vadekar and R. Sridharan. Well, here is the definition, which I will quickly go through because there are a lot of experts already on this in this audience. So, nonetheless, for other people, let me just quickly recall what the definition is. So, let K be a field and A reduced affine algebra of dimension at least 2. Let F be a free abelian group in the set of pairs J and omega J, where J is an ideal of A of height D, and J is M primary for some maximal ideal M of A. And third condition is that there is a fixed orientation, namely there is a surjection from A mod J to the power D to the normal bundle of J, so it's a map of A mod J modules. So this is a kind of, you are fixing the orientation of this conormal sieve. Now, let J, omega J denote the class of this in F of A. And now, given an ideal I of height D, let I equal to the intersection of Ji with an irredundant primary decomposition of I, where if Ji is Mi primary for some maximal ideal Mi, and if you have a surjection to conormal sieve of I, then by Chinese Remander's theorem, Chinese Remainder theorem will tell you that this happens for all these Gi's. In particular, you have this class of I in F of A, the sum of these Ji, Wji's. And note that this is well defined because the irredundant primary decomposition we have is unique in our case. Now let K be the subgroup of Fa generated by elements of the type I, omega I, where now I has this property that its orientation is actually liftable to a surjection from A to the power D to I itself. So you can lift the given orientation of the conormal sieve. So and then you take the quotient to be this free abelian group mod this, and you call this the Euler class group of it. Now, if you have a vector bundle of rank D on A with a fixed orientation, namely an isomorphism from R to the determinant of D, then actually you can show that such a projective module has an Euler class by mapping it onto some ideal of height D. You can do that. And anyway, I will not go into the construction, but nonetheless, well known that this P has an Euler class in the Euler class group. And one shows that this is well defined, and it is particularly well defined if A is a smooth affine algebra over under mild conditions. Yes. I don't know whether it's always defined. Maybe some expert will tell me. It is in particular well defined if A is a smooth affine algebra over an infinite perfect field, and this is due to Bhatt-Vadekar and R. Sridharan. Okay, now the question is Euler class group isomorphic to Chow group of zero cycle when K is algebraically closed? This is the question I am interested in. Well, it is not hard to see that if P is equal to Q direct sum A, you can only leave this Euler class vanishes in the Euler class group. Thus, EA is an invariant of A which can be used to detect existence of nowhere vanishing section of top rank vector bundle on X equal to SK. Let us now assume that A is a reduced affine algebra of dimension D over an algebraically closed field K. We have seen earlier in this case that the vanishing of top Chern class in Levin-Weibel Chow group also detects existence of nowhere vanishing section. So then the question is is it true actually that these two groups are isomorphic because both are doing the same work? So we may expect that they are isomorphic if K is algebraically closed. Well, so what is the answer? So this question was affirmatively answered by Bhattacharya Sridhar, R. Sridhar, when A is a smooth over K. Remember, the K is algebraically closed, which is very crucial here. The third application of theorems A and B removes the smoothness assumption. Namely, we can actually prove that the above question has a positive answer. Namely, for any reduced affine algebra or algebraically closed field, actually a Chow group, Euler class group is nothing but just the Levin-Weibel Chow group, is nothing else. So the proof of this result goes into a few steps. Note that see, this result is not trivial. I will tell you why. Because a priori, we don't even have a homomorphism in any direction, neither from the Chow group nor from the Euler class group to Chow group. In order to solve this problem, we need to recall the notion of weak Euler class group of A. So I will not tell you the definition of weak Euler class group. Only it is exactly same as the Euler class group. Only difference is that when you take these ideals of height D, you just say that it has one orientation, but you don't fix it. You allow it to vary. So once you do that, then what the group you get, which we call this weak Euler class group, and clearly there is a surjection from Euler class group to weak Euler class group. So by forgetting the orientation of these ideal classes. Okay. But even from weak Euler class group, you cannot define a map to the Chow group. Why? We should now observe that even E naught A cannot be directly mapped to Chow group. The reason for this is that the support of an ideal J, such that the J is a generator of the weak Euler class group, actually may lie in the singular locus of A. On the other hand, the generators of Chow group of A lie only on the regular locus. So you see, it's very interesting in a sense that you are asking two things to be same, where, in other words, you are saying that the Levin-Weibel Chow group actually captures the similarity property of A as well, like the Euler class group does. In order to solve this problem, our trick is to define a new weak Euler class group, which definition is as follows. So this definition for a smooth variety was given by Bhattacharya and R. Sridharan, but I do it for, you can do it for any smooth ideals. You don't take arbitrary like M primary ideals. And generators are exactly those regular ideals which are complete intersections, roughly. So this I call it like ES of A. Maybe this notation was used by Bhattacharya and R. Sridharan. So my claim is that this modified weak Euler class group, we see that here I allow only regular ideals. So you have a hope of comparing this with the Euler class, with the Levin-Weibel Chow group, and that's what we do. So now you look at the following diagram. Look at this weak Euler class group. This is your Euler class group. This is your modified Euler class group. This is the Levin-Weibel Chow groups. And actually, you can show that alpha clearly exists. You can show that beta exists and gamma exists. And then you show that beta actually is isomorphism. And then actually and that's how it works. So basically, yes, it's not hard to see that there is a map beta from a modified Euler class group to Euler class group. And more important is that there is a map from the modified Euler class group to Chow group. And this is not trivial construction. This uses theorem A and B, by the way, that this map gamma exists. It already uses the theorems A and B. But once you have this diagram, so then the theorem follows by the following more stronger assertion, namely, the proposition is all arrows in these diagrams are actually isomorphisms. So the fact that Euler class group and weak Euler class group isomorphic is already well known without assuming a smoothness of it. The main point is this side, that namely the beta and gamma are also isomorphisms. That's the main point of the proof. And again, beta isomorphism is basically a simple consequence of Murthy-Swan-Bertini theorem, as you can guess. And the gamma is isomorphism. Again, you use Bertini theorem plus our theorem A and B, plus you go all the way to the K naught of X by the cycle class map. And to prove injectivity, surjectivity follows from the Bertini theorem. Injectivity follows by you go all the way to the K naught of X, and then you see that then you somehow prove that the composition is injective, and that's how you prove that gamma is injective. So that is the way one proves that all arrows are isomorphisms. So yeah, so the main point is the gamma does not exist unless you know theorem A and B. Okay, so this is the solution that actually the Euler class group is same as the Chow group. So this is another application. Now let me go to a proof of theorem A, which is the affine Reutemann torsion. Let me give you some proof. Well, recall that theorem A asserts that the Levin-Weibull Chow group is torsion free. The proof of this is divided into two steps. First, we prove the case of surfaces, which is the most, the heart of the proof. Then we use a Bertini argument to reduce the higher dimensional case to that of surface X, but this also requires some trick. Okay, so simple Bertini theorem does not work. So you'll see how it works. So in the case of affine surface, let X be a reduced affine surface over K. Choose a normalization, call it X bar, and choose a conducting subscheme, and let's inverse image of this in the normalization be W bar. Then the first claim is that there is an exact sequence like this, which is this is the cohomology of SIF K2, this is the SK1, and this is usual, and the claim is that there is an exact sequence like this. And then the last sequence is uniquely divisible because X bar is normal. And the proof of this is similar to the proof of a smooth case we gave in the beginning using the Reutemann torsion for the normal projective surface. Now, since all schemes are affine, SK1A is SK1 reduced. It's a well-known thing for affine schemes. So we can assume that actually that W and W bar are reduced. Then the second term is uniquely divisible. That is by the theorem, a theorem of Barbieri, Bialet, Petrini, and Weibull. And then a diagram change, so it suffices to show finally what? That this group, the first group, H1 X bar K2 is divisible. And this is where the whole meat is. This proof is very complicated, and I will skip it. So rest is all you can do, but how do you prove that the H1 X bar K2 is divisible? And this requires a lot of work, and I will, we cannot get into the proof of this in this talk. So that's the main problem here. Okay, so now higher dimensional case. Suppose that D is at least 3 and let alpha be a 0 cycle. So that n alpha is rationally equivalent to 0 for some n. We need to show that alpha is rationally equivalent to 0. Now let C1 F1 dot 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 CRFR be a collection of Cartier curves and rational function on them. So the n alpha is the sum of the divisors of Fi. Now let's take C equal to union of Ci. Now the idea is to find a complete intercept surface Y in X containing C. Assuming that Y is regular along the support of alpha and Ci are Cartier divisors on Y, we see that alpha is a torsion cycle on Y. Hence, it is rationally equivalent to 0 by the surface case shown above. Taking the push forward to Y to X, from Y to X, we win. Okay, so you will see that, okay, the problem is over. But actually, that's not the case. I am cheating here. So where I am cheating is the following. You see that to solve this problem, you see that we cannot ensure all this what we want here. We cannot do this in a singular variety. You can't achieve this. So the idea is what you do is that you blow up some bad points on C, because you see C may be highly singular. So what you do is that you cannot really contain get some regular surface which contain this C. You can't do that. In particular, suppose the embedding dimension of C is very, very high, so you can't do it. So our idea is to blow up C such that the C becomes nice enough. And we can then find a surface Y containing C on which the support of alpha consists of regular points of UI. You can do that, but observe, once you have blown up, your variety X is no more affine. So you are in trouble. So even the surface Y is no more affine because you have done the blow up. So that's where the hard problem again comes. So to take care of that, we actually prove the Reutemann-Torsen theorem for a very general class of quasi-projective surfaces, not only for a affine surface. So the theorem I prove for surface is not only true for affine surfaces, but for a very big class of quasi-projective surfaces. And that's what I apply here to Y. So that's the point. So it's you just cannot just prove for a affine surface and you are done. It will not work. Okay, so this is how the proof of the theorem A goes. Now here is another application of theorems A and B. You can find many applications actually. I found it over the period of time. Another application is a question of Mohan Kumar, Murthy and Roy. So Mohan Kumar is here, so he can tell us whether I am right or wrong. So let A be a reduced affine algebra of dimension D at least 2 over the algebraic closure of a finite field. Then Mohan Kumar, Murthy and Roy showed that if A is either regular or D is at least 3, then every local complete intersection ideal of ID in A is a complete intersection. And they conjectured that this should hold without the regularity condition even in dimension 2. And one application of the two results I stated is that this conjecture is actually true. So actually our results imply that the Chow group is 0 in this case, hence F0 K0 is 0. And then once you know F0 K0 is 0, the usual tricks of Murthy will tell you that this has to happen. So this is another application that even the theorem of Mohan Kumar, Murthy and Roy actually works in all dimensions at least. And let me tell you another application of these theorems A and B, which is about the Euler class group of affine cones. So what is the theorem? Theorem is the following. So let X be a smooth projective variety with a given embedding in the projective space of any dimension non-negative. And let SPK be the affine cone over X. And the theorem is that the Euler class group of A is 0 if K is algebraically closed of positive characteristic. Okay, this is not true in characteristic 0, so you have to be careful here. So this is not a trivial statement. It's like you have to seriously use positive characteristic here. So it says that affine cones have no Euler class groups in positive characteristic in algebraically closed field. And this is not an immediate consequence of theorem A and B. I should tell you, this is a theorem in itself. It requires something more than theorems A and B, some other new results which goes into algebraic cycles and that I will not get into. So this is not a direct consequence of theorem A and B. It requires some more stuff. Quite a few of more stuff. So now you can ask, is the above statement true if K is not algebraically closed? Can you say that the affine cones have no Euler class group in positive characteristic over any field? You see, the affine cones are cones, so they are contractible. So you can expect that many of the things you know for affine space should hold for affine cones as well. That's the motivating principle here. So the next slide is, okay, what is my current research? Yeah, so so let me now briefly discuss some of the ongoing projects related to the problems we discussed. So throughout our discussion, you might have noticed that our field was algebraically closed, and this was used like everywhere in a very strong way. Obviously, because without this assumption, many of the statements will be actually false. So suppose we relax this condition, then we cannot expect the Euler class group to coincide with the Chow group. So we are confronted with the following two fundamental questions. So question A, is there a group, I write it like this, some kind of Chow group defined using algebraic cycles in quotes, such that every projective A module P of top rank D has Euler class in this group, such that its Euler class is 0 if and only if it splits off a free summand of rank 1. This is the question. Can you construct such a group using very explicitly algebraic cycles? Okay. The idea is to use in as explicit way as possible, like Levin-Weibull Chow group. You have the cycles and rational equivalence. Now, question B is the following. If such a group exists, then do we have a canonical isomorphism between the Euler class group of A and this Chow group, this, which I call tilde LW. I will tell you what is the name of this. I will give you a name. Notice why? Because Euler class group, this is not weak Euler class group, okay? It's Euler class group. So it has this property. So you may expect that, you may ask that whether these two are same groups. And let's see what we can do about it. So these are the two fundamental questions for singular varieties or all varieties over non-algebraically closed. So now let me at least introduce what is this group. Let me introduce this group for you. So this is the group which I would like to call the Levin-Weibull Chow-Witt group of A. So recall that for a Noetherian scheme X, now I am going into something K theory, so I apologize for this, some technical stuff. So for a Noetherian scheme over Z, where you invert 2, and you have suppose you fix a line bundle L on X, and you have an integer n, then there is an exact category with duality, which has this data, namely this is a perfect complexes on X. You can think of it just like bounded complexes of vector bundles on X. And this is the category which comes up with weak equivalence, and weak equivalence is for me is the quasi-isomorphisms. And then the third data is you have this home with L functor, right? This is called the dualization functor. And this T is the shift functor on the perfect complexes. So you take T to the power n, you shift it n times, and then apply this home functor. And the next is this nu L, which is nu L is the identity, the natural transformation between identity and the double of the home with the L squared. It's clearly an isomorphism. So Schlichting proved that given this data, you can construct a non-connective S1 spectrum, which I call it GWNX, L. This is called the Grothendieck-Witt spectrum for this category. Now we write GWMNXL to be the stable homotopy group, mth stable homotopy groups of this spectrum. Remember, this spectrum depends on the shifting operator n. Although there is a periodicity of 4, but we will not get into that. This is called the Grothendieck-Witt group of X. Here T is the shift functor, and I told you. Okay. Now what we can do with this? Now here is the definition of Levin-Weibull Chow-Witt group I defined. So let this be the co-kernel of this map. So the term on the right is the Grothendieck-Witt group of this level of the residue field of the closed points which lie in the regular locus of X. And the group on the right is the Grothendieck-Witt 1,1 of, you take all the Cartier curves, which we used in the definition of Levin-Weibull Chow group, intersect with the singular locus, take the local ring at semi-local ring of that those points. Sorry. And this is a semi-local rings I can take its Grothendieck-Witt group, and then the localization sequence in Grothendieck-Witt group will give you this differential map. And this is a sum over all such Cartier curves. And I define this Levin-Weibull Chow-Witt group as the co-kernel of this map. Notice that if you take this to be just no Grothendieck bit group, only the Grothendieck group, then this is just Z, and this is just the units in the semi-local ring, and this gives you exactly the Levin-Weibull-Chow group. So if we take L to be the trivial line bundle, we simply write it as the Levin-Weibull-Chow group, the Levin-Weibull-Chow bit group of X. So this is the my definition of Levin. Now this is my candidate. So let K be any field of characteristic not equal to 2, and let A be a reduced affine K algebra. Notice that by my definition, there is a natural transformation from the Levin-Weibull-Chow bit group to Levin-Weibull-Chow group, and this map is rejected. Now we can now modify, now you can define, okay, so now what do we do with this? Now I would like to define a map from the Euler class group to this Levin-Weibull-Chow bit group. As before, there is no direct map. So what we do is we define a modified version of Euler class group, and then you say that that maps to this Levin-Weibull-Chow bit group, and then you prove that the modified Euler class group actually coincides with Euler class group using some kind of Murthy-Swan-Bertini theorem. So then you get a commutative diagram of this sort, namely Euler class group, weak Euler class group. This is the Levin-Weibull-Chow bit group. This is the Levin-Weibull-Chow group. So we have this. Now our current goal is to answer question A above, namely, now we have this group. You can ask whether this admits the Euler classes of projective module of top ranks. And if they do, their vanishing, can their vanishing tell you the splitting for the projective module? Once this is done, you would like to answer question B, namely whether this beta is an isomorphism. Remember that if beta is an isomorphism, then question A automatically follows. So question B answer to question B implies a positive answer to question A. But nonetheless, even if you do not know beta, which I emphasize here, my goal is not to prove directly that beta is iso. I would like to independently prove that I don't study Euler class group. I would like to study this very explicit Levin-Weibull-Chow bit group, and I would like to say that it does something which Nori predicted for smooth affine varieties. That's my goal. So, and then you can ask, well, whether beta is an isomorphism. By the way, even for a smooth affine variety, whether beta is an isomorphism was only recently proven over infinite perfect field by Ashok and Fazil. And if I am not mistaken, Fazil gave a talk in this seminar this month, and he was talking about the ideas around the proof of the fact that beta is an isomorphism in that case. So it uses A1 homotopy theory very heavily, in fact, but remember that A is not regular now. So A1 homotopy will not do the job, but nonetheless, you have to do something, and that is for, so that is what we are investigating at currently. Now, irrespective of whether beta is isomorphism or not, we can ask the following open questions. Here is another open question. So let K be a field of characteristic not equal to 2, and let M be a commutative finitely generated partially cancellative torsion-free monoid of rank 2. So you have a monoid which is finitely generated commutative. This cancellative torsion-free monoid means that the corresponding K algebra is basically an integral domain. It's not a big deal. And partially cancellative means that you are allowed to go modulo some ideal as well. But if you go modulo some ideal, it will not be integral domain anymore. It may be just some reduced algebra. So you have some monoid algebra of rank at least 2. Question is, take the monoid algebra over K. Is the Euler class group isomorphic to Levin-Weibull-Chow group, with Levin-Weibull-Chow bit group, and is it actually 0? So that's my question. Can we tell that for this monoid algebra, over any field of characteristic not equal to 2, the Euler class group is 0? You can also ask, is every local complete intersection ideal of this monoid algebra of maximal height a complete intersection? So yes, this is an interesting question in its own right. By the way, I should tell you that if K is algebraically closed and no restriction on characteristic, then this result I had proven last year in joint work with Parvez. Parvez may be here. So the question is over non-algebraically closed field. So with this, our hope is to answer these questions in near future. And I think with this, I would like to end the talk, and I would be happy to receive questions.
Okay, thank you, Amlendu, for this wonderful talk. So now it is time for questions and comments. So I would like to make one comment that since you are giving a historical introduction, so this whether top churn class is the precise obstruction for vector bundle to split off a rank 1 bundle. So the first breakthrough came in 1982. Mohan Kumar and Murthy proved that for affine 3/4. So
Okay.
yeah, so I wanted to mention that.
No, I'm sure I'm happy to know that, because like I try to prove these results, but since that is not my specialty, so I forget the historical part of this.
No, that's okay. That's okay. And also that, yeah, fine. So others can ask questions. Well. Okay, it seems no one is asking, so I will ask a question. So you defined this Levin-Weibull-Chow-Witt group.
Yes.
So does it coincide with the Chow-Witt group of Birds-Morel when your variety is smooth?
I think so.
Oh.
And that should follow from some kind of Gersten conjecture for Miller-Witt K theory.
Oh, okay, okay. So then everything falls into place. And
yes.
And what about Marcus Lichting's Euler class group? Any idea?
Yeah, that's a good question. And that group is hidden in this whole theory. And when you try to, my impression is that when you try to investigate the relation between Euler class group and the Levin-Weibull-Chow-Witt group, I think you will be bumped into answering this question, that whether this is same as Swisting group. Remember, asking this question whether this is same as Swisting group or not is equivalent to asking whether this Levin-Weibull-Chow-Witt group admits Bloch's formula. Remember, the Bloch's formula for Chow group says that the Chow group of zero cycle is the top Zariski cohomology of the corresponding Miller K theory sieve. So asking this question whether this formula was proven by, since Mrinal pointed out, I should be correct in historical point of view. For I think K2 it was proven by Bloch, but for higher K theory it was proven by Quillen. But remember, here I am using Miller K theory, so you have to be careful. And that was proven by Kato and Maurice Kurtz. So you can use Quillen Miller K theory as well. So this question whether the Swisting group coincides with the Chow-Witt group or not is equivalent to asking whether the Chow-Witt group, which I just defined, admits Bloch's formula or not. And I think that when you try to investigate Euler class group and this group, you will bump into that question and you may be forced to answer that. But at the moment, I don't know a positive answer.
Okay, so if that happens, then it will open up a lot of possibilities, because I think Slichting's group is kind of, it uses very little hypothesis, right? It's
Slisting group uses very little hypothesis, but remember that have Chow group. So it's very hard to understand this cohomology of Milner. But you don't know anything about this group. You don't know how to compute. It's like some cohomology group. What do you do with this? So because of that, because it is very abstract, so the hypotheses are minimal. But when you try to prove that the Euler class group or the Chow-Bit group is isomorphic to Schlichting group, you may be forced to put some assumptions which are more stronger than what Schlichting does. So it's basically, it's like same question. So yeah.
Okay. I am done. So, does anybody have any question?
Yeah, I have one question, Amlendu.
Yes.
I want to extract a question in commutative algebra from your talk, which is still open.
Yes.
So, is it true that if you take a ring generated by monomials or a field, any field, you are putting characteristic not equal to 2, then a local complete intersection in such a ring is a complete intersection? Is that an open question?
I think it's a completely open question. Yes. Exactly. So this is my question C. You will see basically this algebra is essentially, if you don't know all this monoid theory and stuff, technical stuff, then in a very broadly speaking, loosely speaking, it is algebra, which is you take the polynomial algebra or the Laurent polynomial algebra and take the sub-algebra generated by a certain set of monomials. So it's a monomial algebra, and then you are asking whether every local complete intersection ideal of maximal height is a complete intersection. And this is known for algebra over algebraically closed field, no restriction on characteristic. But I believe there is no restriction on characteristic here also, but I am putting restriction because these authentic bit groups and stuff like that do not work so well at present without this restriction on characteristic. So forget about the technical restriction, but otherwise I believe this is true. But as far as I know, this is completely open over non-algebraically closed field.
Okay. So our algebraically closed field in any characteristic not equal to 2, this is done. This was done.
Any characteristic, you don't need characteristic 2 or anything.
So that was done with Parvez, you are saying?
That I did, yeah, we did. I and Parvez did it, yes, last year, right?
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so I think we can thank Amlendu again for this wonderful talk and the discussion. And yeah, so thank you, Amlendu.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, it was a wonderful talk, Amlendu.
Okay, thank you.